Now, I know that the number of guys that want to do their own maintenance and take care of their own bikes is not what it used to be, but I still believe there's always going to be those guys who do want to do their own maintenance and do their own work. I think will always exist. And so in this video, I'm going to talk about the Timken bearings, the maintenance of them. I think they were used from 1973 to 1998. If you take care of them, they will never wear out. My last bike had over 400,000 miles on those bearings with all the weight I carry, and they were still working. So I'm going to show you that, and I'm also going to show about the older single piston caliper brakes. If you have these brakes, or if your brakes even look like these, you know, I think there's different ones they made. These are single piston floating calipers. And when you have the wheel off, you want to clean up and grease the floaters on them. And I'm going to show you guys how to do that. At the end of this video, I'm also going to tell you why they quit using the Timken bearings that really never wore out. There's a reason for it. With that, let's get on with this short little tutorial. But here I am at Randy's, you know, and I used to work here, right? So I put the word in for these guys to find me a front tire because I kind of need one. And man, it's getting harder to get my size. They used to be everywhere. I couldn't give them away, these 16 fronts. So they ended up with this choice of these two. I'll show you. Okay, this is what we got. Now, all I'm interested in is the most tread. This Bridgestone gives me this much, right? This American Elite isn't much better. It has a lot less rubber. There's mine. Mine's getting way down there. I don't know if y'all can see that. Mine's getting way down there. Let's see. Bridgestone, right? And this one. Okay, it's got the most rubber. So I'm going to put the Bridgestone on. These guys aren't real, at least Aaron here, he don't like the American Elites much because they split. I've heard this about them wanting to split. But anyway, it's going to be the Bridgestone, so I'm going to put that on. Also, every time you take the wheel off one of these old bikes, you want to grease the wheel bearings. And in the front here, grease the floaters. Right now I'm going to pop a tire on here. Now these old bikes have Timken bearings in them, which never wear out. But what you want to do is grease them every time you take them out, okay? So they have seals that go in the front. So what I do with them is take the seals, I'll show you here, and then I grind a little bit off the edge so they fit a little loose so that I can take them out without ruining them and just use them again. So it makes it easy to grease them wherever I am, okay? Okay, the little black guy's the seal, right? See it? So I want to get it out without messing it up. Okay. See, I filed the edge down a little. I got some aftermarket ones that were loose once, and I could reuse them. It gave me the idea. Okay, and then we got this here bearing, which I'm gonna grease up. Just gonna clean this out with a rag, the inner race. This bearing fits onto that race. It's in the wheel and spins just like that. These are Timken bearings. They never wear out. But you grease them every time you take them out, and you cannot over tighten the wheel. This is supposed to be torqued at 55 pounds, but I won't torque it. I'll just not tighten it over tight. That's what destroys them. So I'm going to clean these up. Okay, we don't have the actual tool here. They don't have it. So I'm going to do this by hand. I got grease, right? Grease. Put it in your hand. A lot of you can probably see how to do this somewhere else. You push it in until you get the new grease to go through the bearing. See, it's coming out the top. You run new grease through it. It's a nasty, messy job. See, I got the new stuff. Is it showing up on that? Mm-hmm. Pushing the new stuff out through the top, and that's pretty good. And then just slop. That's too much. My dad always told me you can never use too much grease, and you know when you're a kid you listen to your dad, right? And then that's about it. And stick them back throw in your rag, and I'm going to push this back in with my thumbs, and that one's done. I'm going to do the other one the same. I'm going to clean it up a little, of course. Nasty, messy shit. So you want to do that when you have Timken bearings every time you have the wheel off. And they will never wear out. Don't over tighten them. The axle. That's it. Can you see me?
Oh yeah.
Got me a photographer here today. Dave, what's going on? Okay, the other thing you guys want to do, every time you take off brakes, an old wheel like this, with these single piston brakes here, is, fucking things are not always easy to get back in. I can cut that part out, right? Okay. They have one piston on one side, and these things float. So they fit on the brakes. When the piston pushes in, the whole caliper moves so that it can squeeze. Anybody who knows what single piston calipers are, all the modern stuff has usually 4 pistons, 2 on either side, so they don't have to float them. But this only pushes one side of the pad, right? So every time you take them apart, you want to grease the floaters. Something a lot of people don't know. This is one of the floaters here. See it? So what I'm going to do is clean it up. I'll be scratching the paint there, Scotty. This guy might get pissed off. I'm going to clean up the floater here. I'm using some brake cleaner. I'm actually using it for its intended purpose. Got a screwdriver, a rag. I'm going to clean these out. Looks pretty nasty in there. Okay, usually, I'll show you guys here in a sec. Okay, so now normally I'm gonna take, this is like special high temp brake grease lubricant that I got at the auto parts store, and it's specially made for this. All right, now I'm gonna put this on here. You can use this stuff for regular grease, but it gums up a lot faster. This stuff gums up too. A little on here. Okay, this is the basic idea. This thing here, when you first go to take it out, usually they're stuck. And I must have had this wheel off not long ago. I think I fixed the speedometer or something. But usually they're stuck like a bastard. You got to shove them out of there and you clean them up and put them back on, okay? There's another one here. There's 2 of them. But every time, if you go to a shop and you have your wheel tire changed, you always want to get, on these older bikes, you want to have your bearings greased. Ask him to do it. Okay, this one gets a bolt. Yeah, you probably can't see it. This just gets a bolt through that goes through that piece that I just greased up, okay? And the other one is part of the bolt. Did I clean this one off yet? I don't know. Okay, so I'm going to grease this one up. And put a little bit in here. Okay, it's the bolts that take off. There's probably somebody made a better video than me out there. And then this one goes in here. This is the other floater. Hopefully it goes in. Okay. And then it gets spun in. That tightens the brakes up. Okay, now every time you take the wheel off of one of these older bikes, a lot of people don't know this anymore. A lot of the mechanics don't even know it because, well, they weren't around for these older bikes. If you have these brakes on the front, the rear ain't like this. You want to grease the wheel bearings. Tell the mechanic, if you're having a shop do it, pay him what he wants to grease your bearings. Tell him to grease them up real nice and grease the floaters on the brakes. Okay? Makes them so the whole caliper moves back and forth. The piston pushes in this way and it pulls the back towards it. So it pulls it like that so it can squeeze this rotor so that you can stop. Got it? All right. Okay. Thank you.
Oh man, just everything. The inspiration, just everything.
Yeah, you know how he got this job. Did I tell you that, Vita?
What?
How he got this job?
Yes, of course.
Scotty loves this story.
Yes, I know. You introduced him, of
Well,
course.
what's funny about it is you were saying I want to work the rallies, and I was saying, well, maybe I can probably get you a job. You said, okay, we'll talk about it later. So I got Randy on the phone,
Yeah.
and I go, hey, I got a guy, and he handed it to you. He goes, you're hired.
Yeah.
It's like that, because you were like going to put it off.
Put me on speakerphone right out there. We were in the forest in Florida.
That's right.
Yeah.
You're like, yeah, I'd like to work these. I can get you a job. You know how to fix bikes. I can see that.
Yeah, and
You're
here
like, okay, we'll talk about it sometime. And I'm like, here. And the boss is like, you're hired. Show up.
Yeah, here
You're
I
still here. What is it?
Here I
3
am.
years later or some shit?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what was fun about it. He took my job.
No, you are.
Now, as I stated at the beginning of this video, I'm going to tell you why they don't use the everlasting Timken bearings, wheel bearing setup anymore. The reason is because each wheel has a spacer in between the bearings that has to be set up individually for that wheel by human hands. You got to use a dial indicator. There's down to 1/1000th of an inch. I forget the numbers. I've had to do it myself. It's kind of a pain in the ass. And those things have to be set up by human hands, and the ball bearings that they use nowadays can be put in by a robot. And that's why. It eliminates another employee or however many employees. Harley's done that with quite a few things on the $30,000 and $50,000 bikes they sell. They've taken shortcuts like that. Now, some of you guys who put down a lot of miles know that the new ball bearing system those bearings tend to go out. And but one of the things that I've been told by guys who own shops, although I wouldn't know this myself personally, is what they do is they're sealed bearings, and they pop the seal out of the side of them, and they fill them with grease. They tell me there's not much grease in them, and they're able to put that seal back in and put it back on your bike. Now, most of the guys I know do that with their own bikes, and but maybe not necessarily the customers. I don't know. You have to ask them, and there's, you know, maybe you can pay them a little more or something in order to get them to grease up your bearings when they put new ones in, because anybody who's got a lot of miles on one of these bikes has had to put new wheel bearings in. And as for the front brake rotors, you want to clean those up and grease them. If you have anything like the ones that I showed you, if they're single piston, they probably float. You want to clean them up and grease them. You use high temperature brake grease because they get hot. They sell it in that little tube I was using at the auto parts store. And with that, you guys, I'm going to leave you a few links. A link to my book, Josie's Journey. I hope you go look at the reviews. The link's there. And a link to some of my donate stuff, just because that's how I'm getting my gas and my food these days. This little channel doesn't pay me a lot of money, enough money really to live on. And I really hate to even mention that stuff's there. Usually I don't. For anybody who wants to use it, thank you a lot. And for everybody who doesn't, man, do never sweat it. I hope you just enjoyed my content. And I'm also on these other free speech channels. If you go over there, I have all the same stuff, and you can say anything you want over there. You can call me names if you want, doesn't matter. Those are uncensored. So you can also find me there, and I hope that you take time to go look some other things up over there, maybe things you're curious about that the mainstream has told you about. Whenever I do that, I usually find out the mainstream is lying to me. And I begin to find the real truth by following the First Amendment over to those channels. But you can find me on those. There's other ones too. I tend to leave a link to a few of the other ones in the Dropbox on those channels. So if you want to come over and join us on the free speech stuff, you're going to find a lot of the comments are people that know a lot of stuff that you ain't never heard on anything mainstream. That really makes sense. You're going to be like, oh, fuck. Anyways, with that, you guys, I will see you all on the next video.